Here we are, podcast for number 3, first one for 2020, and the first podcast we are doing in this podcast setup. I will clap myself on that one.
Epic setup.
So, epic setup. That's pretty cool. So
I love it.
we are here with James Newbury, and he is currently the 5th best CrossFitter in the world. And that is an amazing feat in itself. Right here from South Australia, little old Adelaide produces some great talent. And not only do we produce good food and wine, we produce James Newbury. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So just in case you don't know James, and I guess he has a very big influence definitely in the fitness world. I seem to see your face everywhere these days, a pretty big following on Instagram. From a young age, you were extremely competitive, started as young as the age of 5, and you endeavoured in all sporting, and your first starting was little athletics, and then you had a love for rugby. So I'm assuming that you were from not South Australia.
No. But the funny thing about that is I was born in the Blue Mountains and I lived in Sydney until I was 8 years old, moved to Adelaide, only played soccer while I was in Sydney. When I moved to Adelaide, about maybe 3 or 4 years after that is when I took up rugby league, which is kind of strange, but I don't know, maybe it was a calling that I'd missed out on. Mum didn't want me getting hurt as a 4 or 5-year-old.
From a young age, you then found CrossFit. Mm-hmm. And I've got here from 2012, you tried your first effort at the CrossFit Open and finished 47th, which was a great effort for your first ever chance at that. With no expectations coming out of that, you ended up with a 9th place. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then obviously the hunger for a CrossFit. What happened back then? Was it actually, how old were you back then?
I was at that time 21. So basically I went along to the regionals, didn't expect much. Well, I didn't even expect it to make it to regionals. Scraped in, I think they took 60 that year, came in at 47th. And then the weekend was really good. It was actually the first weekend away I had with Kayla. We'd been seeing each other kind of for about 3 weeks. And I said, do you want to come to regionals with me?
She's like, great date.
Yeah, I know. It was like weekend at regionals. And then she's like, yeah, sounds good. And then, the weekend went really well. I had a blast. And then, came away with the 9th. And I was just like, oh, man, maybe I could, we have to make top 3. So maybe I could have a good push and make it to the games. And that's when I kind of got hooked.
So that was a good start. Then from that, you had your regionals that continued to carry on for you for 2013, 14, 15. Then the real big news was in 2016, 17 and 18, where you went out to
Madison,
Madison for the last one, and you had results of a 26th, 27th, 17th, and then a 5th, which was last year's result. That's an amazing effort.
Thanks.
And to be able to be sitting here talking to you, which I've been quoting as the 5th fittest man on earth. It's a typical of an American event to claim that as in the world.
Totally.
They do the World Series of Baseball, and it's only in America, and the Super Bowl. But it's a fantastic effort, and for you to have that, obviously there's some hunger in there, and obviously we can get talking about that a bit later on. You have some phenomenal stats. But the thing I want to start off with is obviously we're in the food game. I've just recently, you've announced that you're going to try plant-based. How has that decision come about for you?
So originally, I'd actually been thinking about it for quite a long time. When I was probably back in 2012, so when I was 21, I did a couple of months of plant-based. And I did it because I did want to increase performance. I wanted to heal faster. I wanted to recover better. I wanted to be able to, be more endurant. And from a lot of the stuff I was reading at the time, that was, the way that a lot of the endurance athletes were going, especially with like triathlon and ultra running and things like that. And I was just like, oh, well, maybe this might be the way to go. And probably back then, I didn't spend enough time researching how to do it and do it well. And then I also, had a lot of people telling me that if I did do it, I'd get, super weak. I wouldn't gain any muscle. I wouldn't get stronger. And at that point in time, I needed to get stronger. Endurance was okay. Everything was, for me, has always been kind of like okay at everything. It's never been like super excelling at any one thing. And so I was like, worried about, getting smaller and weaker. So I never really stuck to it. And then, over the course of the years, I have, come to realize I love researching stuff. By no means am I, a nutritionist or, an expert in anything. All the things that I've done is just, me having a crack at them and then seeing how I feel. So, and plus on top of that, I'd always been really, the way that I thought about it was I don't think I could go out and I don't think I could kill an animal myself. And I just couldn't do it. I think about my dogs too much. I think about my dogs. I think about my friends' dogs. I think about the cats. I think about all that type of stuff. And it's like, I can't do it myself. And if I can be, competitive and I can compete well and I can do it off it, then I would prefer to do that. And that's my main thing. So mainly it's for, personal feelings towards, that impact I would have. Then taking the time to learn about how I can fuel my body well on a plant-based diet, that was just like, if I can do it without it, then I'll do it without it.
Yeah. Look, I've set it at 2020. I'm going to have one vegan meal a day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great.
And that's hard.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I've had eggs, so it's like, oh, that doesn't count.
No.
So then I had
It's veggie.
Yeah, that's right. Then I had some ham in the sandwich. It's like, Jesus. So
yeah,
it's harder than you think.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing about it is retraining yourself to your go-tos. Like when I was eating an omnivore diet, I knew that I was getting my protein from either my breast of chicken, my piece of steak, my eggs or my fish. And then I knew I was getting all my micronutrients, or a lot of my micronutrients, from my leafy greens and my colourful plant food. And then I was getting my carbohydrates from either my rice or my sweet potato or things along those lines. And so now I look at it and it's just like, okay, where am I going to get my protein from? What are my go-tos? What are my daily easy things that I can prepare to give me my protein, to give me a complete amino acid profile? What are my things that I can get my carbohydrates from, and where can I get my fats and my micronutrients, and where can I pull all these different things from? And it's just basically retraining yourself. Like if you've been living a particular way for 30 years, it's like flipping it on its head. So you're basically just trying to get someone, thank you so much. You're basically trying to get someone to relearn 30 years of habit. And it just takes time. And if you're prepared to put in the time to do it, eventually it just becomes like second nature. Like, making your steak, veg, and carbohydrate meals. Yeah, it's just learning what the new foods are where you're going to gain good protein.
So when you're actually doing that, I'm bad at going to bad food. And it's funny how you say you don't want to harm animals and stuff like that. I think to be at the elite level that you are, there's a level of something in the brain's not normal.
I agree.
And you must have to go to some deep, dark places, which I only get to those after a bottle of vodka on a Saturday night or something like that. But
I saw you pushing pretty hard this morning. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of having James as the coach this morning. And, that goes into another level of like, you've got the gym. Soul 365, and to actually have you coaching people like in a class environment, that's to me what we call management by walking around. And to see you actually do that, it's a really good trait in your own business. I do commend you to that, because you could be one of these guys that just sits back and goes, I've done it right, but you seem to be always pushing forward. And when you're talking about your food and what you want to change, the interesting part that I notice is that you spend $250 a week by trying to eat clean. Not trying, but eating clean. That's a lot of money to put towards your body. Obviously, it pays off, and obviously your body's your number one asset.
Yeah.
So with that thought pattern, is it the whole house? So is Kayla also doing the same thing as you? Because it doesn't seem like one can do it and one can't.
Yeah, I think in a relationship, it does definitely cross over. And so when I said, that's it, I'm doing it, she was just like, yeah, I'd be keen too. Okay. So we kind of, Kayla probably started maybe a couple of weeks after I did properly. She's always been one to, like, if we do something different, she's always one to finish off, whatever's left in the house. It's not like just a throw out. It's just like, she hates being wasteful. So if we prepare food and we don't eat it all, she'll pack it up and make sure we eat it, the next day or the next day or the next day. Yeah. So She finished off the rest of the food. I just said, "No, I'm doing it now," and I stopped. But she finished it off, and she's been doing it too. And she said she's feeling great as well. And it's just a point for us that we get to do it together. We get to talk about it. We get to talk about how we feel about it, and then also we get to prepare these new meals, and we're kind of learning as we go, preparing these foods and trying to get the most out of our nutrition together.
So, are you one of these people that rock up announcing that I'm a vegan?
No, 100% not. I don't like. I put off talking about it that much for a good couple of months. Like I didn't want to decide that I wanted to do this and then come out the very next day and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it properly, and then I wanted to slowly slide in across time, letting people know what I was doing. And no, I don't like to announce it, and I usually just say plant-based. The connotations that surround it, it's like I'm not ever going to push it on anybody else, but I'm happy to let people know what I'm doing and trying to educate them as much as possible on what I'm doing and what I've found and my own personal experience. And if that can have an impact that is good for someone else, then great, fantastic.